Last time we had players move to really big clubs but not play because they're in the B team or the reserves or next gen or whatever you want to call it. And we had CDB, who is our Wonderkid, move to Miami. Is he still there, and is he the Swedish Messi? As always, my friends, it's June 30th of the next year, so we're now at the end of year 4. CDB's no longer in Miami. What is happening in this experiment? My friends, he has moved to Italy and AC Milan. I was really confused in that last episode as to why he had decided to go from Ligue 2 to MLS. Seemed a little early for that. But here we are, and he has now proceeded to move on. He's worth $73 million to $218 million, living up to the Wonderkid name, now with AC Milan, 20 and a half years old, on 94,000 euros a week. Okay, when did he sign the contract? Yeah, January of this year. So at the end of the last MLS season, was it just like what is the deal with that? Like a one and done? Or did Miami just really pick a good player out and decide to resell? Okay, I think they paid like 14, right? 14.75, something like that. They paid 15.75, and they only sold him for 26 million. I mean, only, right? Like after a season, that's not bad. But he's already gone to Italy, and he already played. Like he plays. Okay, how did this work? Okay, I just went back and looked. He moved to Inter Miami on February 9th of 2026. So he plays the regular MLS season schedule, the, essentially March to October, November type thing, and then proceeds to move to AC Milan in January of the next year. So he only plays one season. So it's like a half season that he plays for AC Milan. That's what we're seeing here. With the 19 starts, 4 goals, 6 assists on a 7.2 in Serie A. He gets 8 goals, 8, 9, and 4 on a 7.29 in MLS. As you might expect. Although those numbers aren't maybe as high as you would expect. If he was able to go to Serie A and that's in 19 games, not 16, but in a little bit more than half as much of the time, get half of the goals and 2/3 of the assists, you might have expected actually a little bit more in MLS. At least I would have. Maybe that's my bias against MLS. But AC Milan pays the $26 million to bring him over. He's on 94,000 a week. I think he was on like 7,500. That was the other thing that was really confusing about that move to Inter Miami. Is you go like, well, why? Why would you do that? 5,000 to 7,500 is a nice bump, but it's not getting you to 94 grand like AC Milan. But maybe he needed the exposure. Maybe Sweden qualified for the World Cup and he just wanted to be nearby during the World Cup. Let's go see. Because he does have 4 caps and a goal. Okay, this is so interesting because I completely missed this last episode. He does make the World Cup roster. That would have been in last episode, right? That's the June of 2026. I always think the World Cup is like in July after the transfer to the new year. But he doesn't make an appearance. But as you can see here, he's on the bench against Panama but doesn't come in. Likewise, in the game against the Netherlands, that Sweden wins 2-0. He also doesn't come in, and they also lose to South Korea 2-0, even though South Korea has somebody get a yellow card in the 46th minute and the 59th minute. But that doesn't stop them. They go on to take on Saudi Arabia and win that game. Again, he's on the bench. He doesn't come off the bench, but they decide to deploy their Wonderkid in the round of 16 against Tunisia. He comes on for Jens Kajust, who looked, I guess, exhausted at, essentially at halftime. He got injured, but it looks like a halftime or right at the end of the first half. CDB comes on and does a 6.9 with 1 key pass and 1 interception. Not a whole lot going on in the second half of that game, I guess. And then, unfortunately, he gets to start against France, goes 67 minutes on a 6.1 in an absolute shellacking 6-0, down 4-0 at the half. So that's not really that CDB played poorly, it's that everyone played poorly. You're talking about from as low as a 6.0 to a high of a 6.6, or I guess a 6.7 for a substitute, Isak Hein. But our man did make the World Cup roster, and Sweden makes a run to the quarterfinals. Good for them. And curiously enough, he doesn't make an appearance in 2026 in the Nations League, which you would think for a guy that you're bringing through, that's more likely the spot to put him in versus like the Euro qualifiers or something like that. He also doesn't play in the first Euro qualifiers group game against Azerbaijan. He's not even on the bench, I don't think. It doesn't show up here on the right, but he does start and does a 6.5 against Croatia in a loss, and then he scores after having started. He does a 7.2 against Hungary. Ooh, I'm curious if Gustav is there. We won't look just yet. 2-2. And he scores in the 23rd minute in front of 50,000 people. I was wondering if he missed those Nations League games because of like an injury, but he's only had very, very light knocks, like, what is that, 9 total days in 2026. And that was partially last episode or last year that we wouldn't even be covering. So it's not that. Okay, going back to the contract, 94,000 a week, January 2027. It is a 4.5-year deal until June 30th, 2031. No release clause, which is interesting. He also got a loyalty bonus. He's got 3 million left on the loyalty bonus. CDB, call me. All right. Doing all right there. And they have an optional contract extension. So one of those, he's 20 years old. So he's just turned 20 when he signs it. Massive deal. But also, again, we'd have to look at the wage structure of AC Milan. We could go do that real quick. It's a squad player contract, 94 grand. So like, even that is like, well, he got paid in comparison to the rest of humanity, an absolute ton. But in comparison to the squad, it's on par. Actually, there's some squad players above him and below him and kind of near him and really below him. So he's kind of like right there in the middle, but also no release clause. So did they up maybe the wage on the weekly to say, hey, you can't force us to sell you, at least from a release clause standpoint. I'm going to start to try and remember to move the camera so that when we're looking here, we could see, the stats from the current, now that we're getting into leagues that have league and cup and continental competitions, kind of highlighting those a little bit. So not only does he get the 19 starts in Serie A, he gets 3 cup starts and 4 continental starts, a 6.97 in the cup and a 6.8 in the league. Not a whole lot to go along with those, from a stats standpoint, but AC Milan buy him and throw him like straight into the team, even though he's a squad player. He got the 19 starts. I wonder if they have like some injury crisis. He's still with Erik Eriksen. His reputation now is 2.5 stars, which is considered good. Also, somewhat interesting. He's fluent in Swedish, French, English, and Italian. He's already picked up Italian. He just got there. I mean, that is incredible. Oh, and he's overjoyed to have scored his first goal for Sweden on his positives. Go on, then. Oh, and AC Milan, if you look here, have won the league 2 years in a row, and they just strengthened with CDB coming in January of this year. The rich get richer. CDB's gonna love this. Jurgen Klopp is the manager at AC Milan. CDB and I happen to be Liverpool fans. I think you know that if you're this far into the experiment series, but that is chef's kiss. My friends, one of the things I've struggled with in the experiment series, and I think you can kind of tell, is the going into super in-depth on the attributes, because I'm personally really interested in it, but it can make the episodes quite long. So what I'm going to do moving forward is just take a screenshot. It's going to go on my Patreon on the free tier, so you just have to, I think you have to be a member, but you don't have to pay to be a member, so that you can see that. If you want to go on a deep dive, that avoids me saying, and then this one up by 1, and this one up by 1, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to do that with the players in this episode. It's just going to be like, yep, unless something has dramatically changed, either positively or negatively, I'm just going to let you see the attributes and then we'll move on. That having been said, he's up 6 pounds to 158 pounds. He's still not like a beefy guy. And he's got, some of the double-digit yellow numbers there to decisions off the ball, technique, vision, natural fitness, and pace. No new player traits. You can see the attribute octagon there on the right. I really think that's all I could show you, but I am so blown away that he went to Inter Miami, and now I'm blown away that he only was there for a year, and now he's with title-winning back-to-back in Serie A AC Milan with Jurgen Klopp. That is, if you knew CDB, you'd know how perfect that is. Next, I'm going to take you to Chris Carpenter, because we were a little worried that he'd moved to Dortmund but wasn't playing. It appears he's now with Hanover, so did they just outright buy him? Oh no, it is a loan. It is a loan, okay. Up there at the top left. See, I'm doing this live. I don't look at these in advance. So I was wondering if it was like a loan with an option to buy, but he's on loan until today. Okay. I was wondering if it was did they do a 2-season loan? That would be really interesting. They pay most of his wages to kind of cover that, so not a bad deal for Dortmund to go get some playing time for him. How does he do? He does a 1 start, 8 subs on a 6.3 and 3 non-competitive matches where he does a 6.83. Did he get anything for Dortmund like in the second half of the... No. Chris, my friend, I think it's a struggle. Chris was the one that asked for some of the dirty player, kind of like some negative traits, and I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think I can mention that at this point. We're this deep into it. He's still worth 13 million to 40 million, and he's still with Dortmund. I mean, I'd be curious, does it say on the contract? It doesn't say the playing time, right? So you kind of go, and they specifically said they'd play him at left back, but I think that's what you're seeing is a guy with maybe some hidden attribute issues or characteristic issues. He's still driven, but he's not really developing because he's not playing, and that is kind of sad. So we'll have to see what happens after this loan ends today. Where does he go? Obviously, it's not going to show him as tagged as for a loan or anything like that yet because he's still with the existing loan. We'd be surprised if they converted him if there is an option. I don't think there was an option for that. So no option to convert him. I mean, again, he's still getting paid really well, so still is a really good value. There's a chance he could move on, even if they sold him for 13 million. Like, that's an unbelievable value. But I'm not really... That's what I'm very confused about. And I'm recording this, several episodes in advance, so maybe you've left a comment by this point about why you think some of the values are so high on all of the players. Chris is not playing and is somehow worth 13 to 40 million, and he's not playing at the international level. He's capped at the under 23 level, but he's not... Has he declared, I guess? No, he has not declared. He's also picked up Danish and German, so like they're picking up languages super fast. It's just interesting. He's also still got the same agent, Brian Vasquez, and has the 1-star reputation still. Now, okay, this explains maybe part of why he didn't play as much for Hanover. Maybe they wanted to play him more. A sports hernia, major, 4 weeks, and that was in February, so that's February to the end of March, and then he's got to get back into fitness, so maybe that helps explain a little bit of the lack of playing time. Again, this is not, the guarantee of why he would be, not getting as much time, but when you look, he's not even listed on the subs bench. Again, it's June 30th, so does that really mean anything? But you would imagine for a guy that, you've loaned in, you see the ones at the right back and the right center back, they are starting on a regular starter contract. And also you can see down here, Chris is concerned. So clearly, that's how we could see that. Oh, the agreed playing time was important player. And then they only played him 1 start, 8 subs. Yikes. Okay, I'm guessing that's mostly because of the injury? Maybe? No, that doesn't make sense because he was loaned on July 28th of 2026. So he got injured in February and should have played a lot more before then. To be fair, it looks like he did start this or come on as a sub in the second game, only on a 6.4. And then the third league game, he starts and does a 6.7. So there's the start. Oh, in the next game. Oh my goodness. He gets sent off in the 90th minute. I mean, they still win. Okay, that doesn't look... I mean, it's bad. It looks like 2 yellow cards, maybe? 2 yellow cards. Okay. He gets sent off in the 90th minute for 2 yellow cards. It doesn't cost them the game, but is that where he lost the manager's trust? He misses the next 6 games. Surely it's not that bad. It was 2 yellow, so it wasn't like a 6-game suspension. And then he does a 6.0 against Kaiserslautern as a sub, and then comes on as a late sub against Darmstadt. Doesn't play. Yeah, so... Did the manager lose trust in him? Is it that dirty player aspect? He's getting yellows. He's got another yellow here against Elversberg and a loss on a 6.6. And then he has the hernia. And it's like it just starts to kind of fall apart. From an attribute standpoint, he has no technical changes. And the mental and physical ones are 1 up, 1 down type situations. He gains 2 pounds, has no other traits. It looks like it's a struggle for Chris. So we'll have to see what happens now that he's going to be mad that he got loaned on an important player contract and they didn't play him and he got a hernia lifting weights. What happens next? All right, let's go to see James because, okay, James has moved. Okay, again, I'm doing this live because we were worried about James's lack of playing time. He is now with Boa Vista. He's moved to Boa Vista on loan in the January window of this year, with no option to buy him, no mandatory clause. So he's still with Benfica. So he's He's moved, but for playing time, and they're paying essentially his wages plus a pretty hefty playing monthly fee that is lessened if he actually plays. So, did he play? Yes, he did play. Okay, this is, oh boy. He played for 3 different teams, Benfica, Benfica B, and Boa Vista, all in the same season. So, first team with Benfica, he gets 1 start on a 6.9. We'll have to see when that was. That's interesting, because you would, I guess then after that, or maybe it was they had an injury or something like that in the rest of the fall, or the autumn, if you prefer, my European friends. He gets 16 starts, 2 goals, 3 assists on a 6.95 for the B team. And then in the spring, he moves to Boa Vista on loan. 900,000 cost to Boa Vista for that. So clearly they want to play him. 13 starts, 3 goals, and assist on a 6.84. They also get 3 cup starts out of him on a 6.57. Not great. He also gets 3 international starts and a goal on a 6.8. James is on the map. He's getting playing time, and the national team has noticed. He stayed relatively injury-free. Nothing crazy going on here. His values actually increased. So he was 11 to 33 million. He's now 12.5 to 38 million. And that's really confusing because it looks like it says that he's taking less money. He was on $6,000 a week, but that's what Boa Vista's paying, for his contract. He has gotten that 10% wage rise that a lot of the players have had. So he's on his original contract. It's got 2 years left. Let's go take a look at Colombia. When did he start playing for them? Okay, Colombia play in the World Cup, and I'm wondering if, because it's the World Cup, you can see the stuff above me regardless, because I've looked at all the games and James is not even on the bench. So my understanding is we were only able to see those things when the player was in the squad that we have on our short list. That's not the case this time, so maybe it's just that it's the World Cup and it's obviously a big deal. And also in this clearly fantasy world, the United States beats Colombia 3-1 at the group stage, which I think it probably doesn't actually happen. And then they end up, Colombia ends up losing to Brazil 2-0. Okay, fair enough, but the United States, what? But then after the World Cup, kind of, okay, next cycle, James comes in as a 6.9 in a start in a draw against Australia. He plays again against Mexico in the, is that the next one? It's not the next one. It's like 8 days later, 9 days later, something like that. He starts against Mexico on a 6.7. And then in 2027, another friendly against South Korea. He scores his first goal back-to-back with Luis Diaz, but they lose to South Korea 3-2, which is interesting. So now, coming in the next episode, what we'll see is there is CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. They get Bolivia, Argentina, Ecuador, and Peru. Is James now at the level where he's going to be in the mix there? And classic GHG things, I forgot to move my camera. So hopefully that didn't mess everything up from the previous section. Whatever, we move on. Again, no crazy changes on the attributes. The technicals improved just a little bit. That first touch is in the bright yellow for 16 now. He has some nice mental development that you can check out if you want to pause or again go to the Patreon. And then he gains, I think, like 2-3 pounds. He's up to 141. Still, I mean, he must be just pure muscle, I guess, to not get knocked off the ball. But he does have just the 6th strength, so maybe not, fairly strong left foot with very strong right foot. That is what he had last time. That, for some reason, I thought that might have been an upgrade in his footedness on the left foot. But now we get to see, does he stay at Benfica now that he's gotten some game time and that the Colombian national team is calling him in? Do they loan him out again, or does he actually get to play? Or do they go, we got 2 years left on this deal. We're getting close to the time where you say, we're either going to extend this guy or we make a decision to maybe move him on to someplace else. Well, let's see what happens to James next time. All right, Marcus was at Mainz, and we were worried to see, is he going to play? He was like that maybe 3rd or 4th string striker. He's still with Mainz. He's up to 17 caps and 20 goals now, more than a goal per game, on 38 grand a week. Now, that's a significant increase of almost 20 grand. He was on 18 and a quarter the last time we saw him, and his contract was only good through 2029. It's now good through 2032. So something has changed here. He's literally just signed it yesterday. The ink is not even dry. The release clause is up to 72 million and a 35 million if they get relegated. You got a tasty loyalty bonus. He's got 1.6 left on that. Did not get loaned out. Marcus, what is the deal, man? 8 substitute appearances with 3 goals on a 6.82, plus a cup start and a cup substitution with 1 goal on a 6.95, and then, just the 7 internationals starts with 6 goals, 2 assists on a 7-5-1 because he's running rampant internationally. But maybe it's just that in the Bundesliga they pay a lot. I don't know. That seems like a lot of money for a guy who has not been able to get a single. Is it the entire time? He's not had a single start once they got promoted to the Bundesliga, to be fair. But critically important, the contract he just signed is an important player contract. Now, it shows him on the bench, but whatever system they end up playing, it looks like, again, they're still playing a 5 at the back type situation with 1 up top. Somebody's going to move. Like, surely if he's an important player, he moves up. Or maybe they're going to change the system. But I think this coming year, clearly Marcus is not going anywhere. He's stick with Mainz, and now they have paid him to stick with them. And he's got to play. I'm a little disappointed he hasn't played more than 8 substitute appearances, but I think we will take that in the fact that he now has an important player contract making $38,000 a week. I think we see big changes at the end of the next year. How big will they be? Can he help keep them up? Let's go see Mainz finished 12th last season. So I'm not saying like super comfortable, but it's up from 16th the year before. So they're on the up and up. That's good. So less likely that they get relegated and then he, gets that release clause activated. Although you never know, they could have a downturn, something like that. But they have put their money where their mouth is, and okay, Marcus, we've let you develop. Still just got the 12 finishing. I think that's probably what's holding him back a little bit. But he's got 15 dribbling. He looks like an advanced forward, right? I mean, that's what it's saying. It's defaulting to that, and it's not in alphabetical order. So my guess is it's leaning into that acceleration and pace. He just can't finish as well. But maybe it's because he hasn't played. He can clearly finish at the international level. But, give him a chance. Let him go out there and run and see what he can do in the Bundesliga. Fascinating. Value hasn't changed significantly. It's up to 30 million to 89 million, which, by the way, that's a 59 million stretch of whatever. It was 25 to 75, which is 50. It's just like, does that number mean anything at this point? Like, pick a number out of a hat and you'd probably be all right. No new player traits or anything like that. And no crazy changes on his attributes, although his technique has dropped from a 14 to a 13, as has his heading, going from a 14 to a 13. So is that just a lack of playing time? He hasn't gained any more weight. He's filled out. This is how big we're going to get. And we'll have to see what that means. I guess, okay. I've just noticed at the bottom, he's also involved in the under-23 Asian Cup qualifiers and in the Asian Cup. Okay, so he's still... How does that work that he's involved with... One sounds like a senior team thing and the other one doesn't, but let me go check. Okay, for the under-23s, he doesn't play in the autumn at the Asiad, which I believe someone very helpfully left a comment, said it's like the Olympics but for Asia, which is curious. But in the spring, he plays for the under-23s, in the U23 Asian Cup qualifiers. They're still in the group. Okay, they've qualified at the top of the group. Those games are in March and April 1st. And so he doesn't play for now the senior team in the autumn, but in the spring, oh no, it's not the Asiad. It's the Asian Cup Group C. There's a different cup. Okay. He plays in January for 5 different games. And then 3 days later, or 4 days later, in February for a 6th game and a loss to Thailand 5-4. Marcus scores in the 7th minute on a 7.9. Let's just go look at this game. You've got 4 goals in the first 9 minutes of the match. What? I'll leave this here for a second so you can pause and take a look at it. Hilarious that only one clear-cut chance was created, and that was for Thailand. 15 shots to 14, 6 on target to 10. 4 goals in the first 10 minutes of the match. So it's 2-2. If you were late to the game, you missed out on a incredible start. But they still don't get the job done, and they lose to Thailand. Marcus finished exhausted on a 7.9. And by his standards, probably disappointed, which seems harsh. He gets a break in the March window, and then in June, comes back for a friendly against Tajikistan. Scores in the 17th minute in a 2-2 draw. Does a 6.8. That probably also explains a little bit, not completely. Marcus doesn't play for Mainz in January. He's off at the various cup competitions. So Again, that doesn't explain everything. And boy, they had a horrific end to the season. Look at that. Winless in your last 7. Ooh. I mean, so maybe but they finished 12th. I was like, maybe they're squeezing the bat really tight, to use a baseball analogy. But hey, we can't afford to roll this kid out because we're trying to stay up. But they finished 12th, so like, it couldn't have been that bad. Yeah, they finished on 41 points. Relegation was 28 points, and isn't the relegation playoff 16th, 34 points? So it was relatively close. It's 7. It ends up being 7 points, but it wasn't like they were in 16th fighting for their lives. So it's still kind of disappointing that he doesn't, play a little bit more. He also has no injuries, so I think the playing time thing is, unless he gets some horrible injury, going to take care of itself next time because he's now on an important player contract. So either he's going to play or not play and be mad and agitate for a move. Last thing on Marcus, he does have a okay 1.5-star reputation, still the same agent. So nothing has changed from that standpoint. We'll have to see what 2027/2028 looks like for him. Gregory Bros is still with Shamrock Rovers. I'm a little disappointed in that. I was kind of hoping with 500,000 on the release clause. Again, he looks like a good player to me, right? Just off the bat, not having looked at the attributes in the previous video, you're seeing lots of double digit and lots of, at least lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yellow, 16 or aboves. He's got decent physicals, tries long range passes, likes to switch the ball to wide areas. Left winger that is a very right strong foot. He can still cross though, so like he could play that inside forward. He could play the winger role, but he's on 1.2K a week. It's a deal for another 18 months. Is that the original contract? Yes, and it's with a 10% yearly wage rise. He is wanted. Okay, he's finally getting some attention. Man United, Inter Milan, Lazio, Torino, RB Leipzig. Has significant potential and could break into the first team fold sooner than expected for all of those. What took you so long, folks? I guess nobody scouts, Ireland's top division. I guess maybe that's fair. So this is where they're playing, the calendar year rather than the rest of the European footballing schedule. So he finishes 2026 with 32 total appearances. And I remembered to move the camera. 30 of those being starts, 2 goals, 4 assists, 4 players match on a 705. Solid, okay, fair. And then in this first half of the 2027 season, he gets 18 starts, no goals, but gets 5 assists on a 694. He also had 7 continental going back to 2026. Or was that the Shelburne thing? We'll go take a look. But he also gets 3 cup starts. This year, he also gets 2 cup starts on a 7.2. Yes, right after last episode, Shamrock are in the Europa League path. The UEFA Europa League path first qualifying round. Lovely stuff by UEFA there with that. Jeez. And just filtering there to make it a little bit easier to look at. So they draw in the first game and then lose to Puskás Akademia. That knocks them down to the Europa Conference League path second qualifying round, where they get past Domzale on a 2-1 aggregate scoreline. They then, ironically, they face the same team in the Europa Conference League path third qualifying round, and this time they get their revenge. 4-2 on aggregate. That takes them to the fourth qualifying round, and they lose to Rakau on a 3-0 aggregate scoreline. But for Greg, he does an 8.0 in the first game, a 6.8 in the second game, a 6.3 in the first game against Domzale. But he bounces back in the second game with a 7.7, where they are able to get that goal to take them to the next round. A 6.7 and then a 7.2 in the revenge games. And then to be fair, like we are talking like the League of Ireland, so like we're taking on a Polish Ekstraklasa team predicted to finish first in the coming season. So a good team in their own right. I just noticed it. Greg got sent off in the 59th minute. At least they'd already scored, but that kind of, you're not coming back from that. And then obviously that means he's going to miss the next game. That's gutting. So my guess is in that continental competitions, he's gotten noticed. That's why you now see, those are big clubs. Like that's not like stepping stone clubs, right? Like you're talking like some big clubs coming in. Maybe Man United is a stepping stone. Sorry, had to. But maybe that exposure that we've been wanting for some of these guys, he got that, and now he's getting the attention to say, "Hey, it's time to go." However, he short-term plans wants to win a trophy. He's excited at the team's chance in the League of Ireland Premier Division. He's still not declared for any of the nations that he's eligible for. Now, Shamrock are 6 points off top. I was kind of wondering, like, does he stick around, until the end of the season rather than leaving in the summer to see if he can win a trophy, or does he say, sorry, really big clubs have come in and we'll see you later? He still has the same agent. His reputation, I think, might be the lowest of, and that makes sense based on where he's playing and kind of how it's kind of worked out this far. He's got a nominal reputation, and he's flattered by the interest being shown in him. Just now, Greg did have that lower back stress fracture in 2025. This year in January, he had a pulled back muscle for 10 days, but lucky for him, I guess, like, hasn't had anything significantly wrong physically. So I've got to imagine if those clubs are sniffing around, again, 500,000 for this is nothing, and he's got some good capabilities here from an attribute standpoint. I would imagine he's gone before the end of the season, but we'll find out next time. Hello, my friends. Back again to pitch Patreon for you. Patreon.com/grayhairgaming. It's the only way right now that I can monetize this channel. I did have a comment recently. Somebody said, "What do you mean you're not monetized?" I watch all of the ads. Thank you. How YouTube works is you have to have 1,000 subscribers, which I have almost 6,000 at this point, and you have to have 4,000 watch hours in the last 365 days. So when I restarted my channel back in April, we were essentially starting from 0 watch hours. By the time this episode comes out, we're probably about halfway there. Like currently it's like 1,900, something like that. So we're making progress, but YouTube's not paying me for any of the ads that you're watching at the beginning of my episodes or something like that. How that works is essentially it's YouTube's way of saying, we're going to distribute your content for free and we're going to make money. And if you get big enough, then we'll let you have a cut of the money. So if you're interested in supporting my endeavors here, the best way to do that is patreon.com/grayhairgaming. How that works is a $5 a month Patreon membership covers about 1,000 monetized views on YouTube if you're getting about $5 per 1,000, which is how YouTube and ads are done. And it might not even be that much. It might be more like $3 for 1,000 views. So anything you do to chip in and help out, patreon.com/grayhairgaming. Thanks for your support. All right, let's go check out Gustav Farkas at Juve. He's still at Juve. He's on 21K a week now. He's got 13 caps. Okay. I think there's a little bit of attribute development that I remember. I think his heading and marking and tackling were already kind of there. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think the heading and the tackling have increased by 1 as well as his passing. There's been a couple of bumps on the mental stuff. The physical is pretty much the same, a couple adjustments. He's not gained any more weight or gotten any taller. It is interesting now that it's showing wide center back over here, so we'll have to see, are they playing a 3 at the back? And he's on that, probably right side of that would be my guess. He's also played in the Nations League and the Nations League B, although I'm thinking that's the same thing, and that's just Football Manager things down at the bottom here. And in the, I'm guessing that's Euro qualifiers? Yes, in the Euro qualifiers on a 6.5. But did he get playing time for Juve or the Next Gen team? I mean, it's got him still listed as Next Gen, and it looks like it's exclusively been Next Gen. So but he does play, so like not complaining. He gets 31 starts, 1 sub on a 6.81, which is, I mean, Serie B, is that? You would hope it'd be a little bit higher, I guess, is my thinking, if you're trying to break into the first team. He also does the 4 international on a 6.7. And then, why does it show? Oh, okay, because Serie Che? I think it's Che. Is in the, like, it's got multiple divisions. So they got relegated. Interesting. Oh yeah, the B team got relegated. Oh my goodness. Well, that kind of changes things a little bit for me in that, like, if Gustav, okay, first let's count how many wins they got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins all season. That was a short count. But if he still did a 6.81, it's almost like, was he just surrounded with a bunch of players who aren't very good? Like, that sounds very weird to say about Juve Next Gen, and obviously the roster is much shorter here, so I don't know if they're like dropping down the fringe players from the senior team or whatever down into this level. So, I mean, you've got Gustav on 21,000 a week, and the left back is on 250 a week, as in 250 euros, not 250,000 euros. So it's quite the mixed bag. I would imagine he's frustrated to be like, can I get a chance? Like, loan me out. Can I get a chance here? Or, but he signed a deal for another 4 years, and that's a new contract that he signed in February. If he gets to 15, senior team games, it goes up to 35.5. That's a huge increase from 21, but it's still a breakthrough prospect contract. It's not like he's a squad player or something like that for the senior team. Obviously, 21,000 is fourth lowest of the players currently pulled up into the senior team. So maybe he's happy. Maybe like, I'm making good money. I'm playing at a level with players that I earn whatever percentage more every single week or year that they do. But with a guy with that much potential and value, I think that's the other thing, 18.5 to 56 million in value, you would think he would start to be like, I need to be playing, and Juve would be thinking, we need to play him, or we need to loan him at least, or sell him, so that we are getting a return on our investment of 11 million plus his contract. Now, he's got a pretty, it's not hefty contract, but you get my point. It's like, there's some potential here. So I'd be curious if they're not going to pull him up into the senior team this year, if that would mean a loan, since he's still listed as a breakthrough prospect. So we'll have to see how that turns out. And again, since that torn hamstring, he's remained injury-free, so it's not been like an injury thing that's kept him from, finding another club or getting minutes someplace else on a loan or something like that. So he's just signed a new contract and committed, another 4 years in Italy. We'll all be with Juve. I don't know. Let's go find out. Interestingly, he only plays in 2 of the Nations League games. He plays in a loss against Slovenia, so the first game there on a 6.6. Then he doesn't play in the second game or, in the next window, the first game, but he plays in the second game of the second window and does a 7.2 against Austria, so performs pretty well there, but then not again. He's not involved in the first window of Euro qualifiers, but he is involved in the June window in both the draws against Lithuania and Sweden. He does a 6.5 in each game. And I think, unless I've missed it someplace else, my friends, this is the first time we've had 2 of our Wonderkids face off against each other. So CDB versus Gustav, and they come out with a draw, but CDB gets the goal, in the first half. So good for him. So again, he's 20 years old. I'm not trying to overstate it. He's now on the international stage. He's playing in Euro qualifiers. So somebody has to be paying attention. Now, he's done a 6.5, so it's not like he's done a 7.4, but it's also kind of hard, I think, as a center back to do that. So we'll have to just see how the next season goes for him. Interesting that he signed that new deal and there's no wanted tag up there. So even though he was in those Euro qualifiers, he's not gotten the attention, at least officially, in the game. We'll see how it turns out. Last but not least, I left Chase here this time because he moved to PSG, and we just let that sit for a little bit. No season stats. It's blank down here. There's no position. That's concerning. Okay. 26-27 for PSG 2, which I don't know they play. It's clearly not an official league. He gets 29 starts, 2 subs. Again, substitution goalkeeper appearances. Amazing. That's bizarre. Concedes 15 goals, but it gets 18 clean sheets. So that's 11 or maybe 13 games where he concedes a goal, depending on if, I can't remember if the clean sheet counts if you come in as a sub, right? But it is a 7.01. He gets 2 international starts and a sub. Riddle me this. I know goalkeepers occasionally get injured. That seems like a lot. I feel like a lot of Chase's career, he's had, we'll go count them here in a second, but I digress. But he only does a 6.53. So we'll have to see. Is that senior team? Like Australia? Maybe. Let's go back. Okay, so he's 3 total substitution appearances across international and in club form here. There's a 4th one this year. None this year. None this year. And 2 more. 5 and 6. I don't know. For a guy that really didn't start playing until 24-25, over what? The next 4 seasons to have 6 substitute appearances as a goalkeeper? Maybe that's nothing. It just, in my experience playing FM, that just doesn't happen all that often. So that always has grabbed my attention with Chase. From a development standpoint, the technicals, again, I think look really good. He did see some increases to his kicking, his one-on-ones, his throwing, and some mental stuff. He's picked up the player trait of avoid using his weaker foot. He seems like a good technical shot-stopping keeper. It's that mental side. And we all know goalkeepers there's a lot of mental, in that position. Physicals could be a little bit better, right? That acceleration coming off your line, something like that. 6'4", 187 pounds. He's worth 32 million to 96 million. Last time that was like 28 to 85, something like that. So, I mean, that's probably just his contract increasing. Speaking of his contract, it's the one that he signed in 2026 in January. Same contract, no changes. He's got another 3 years on that deal. Yeah, I think, Chase, you were right. I think you got some, again, it's nothing anything major, but it's stuff that takes you out of the squad, maybe, right? Or the high praises of, hey, maybe that's the guy we pull up. As well, is he going to stay healthy? 4 days here, 10 days there, 3 days, 4 days. But no, when you look at the number of days, you go, it's not that bad, right? Like, that's not something that would keep me from pulling a guy up. But when it keeps happening, you kind of go like, how long is this list going to get? His reputation is 1.5 stars. Okay, still working with Adrian Taylor. He's fluent in English and in French. Has no plans for the future. Just wants to chill in Paris, which, fair play. I'd love to do that myself. He has picked up 3 more senior team caps. The first one is in September of the previous year against Lebanon. He does a 6.8 in a victory there. He starts in a friendly at the beginning of the year against Japan, but only does a 6.1 in a draw. He's not used at the Asian Cup, in which Australia goes on quite the run, and then doesn't come back in until Matt Ryan goes down with an injury early enough that he doesn't even get a rating, and Chase comes in and does a 6.7 against Bolivia in a draw there. But he's also involved in the under 23, so he's like that. The backup now is what it looks like in the friendlies, but not the main competitions for the senior team, but also the starter in the under 23. So he does a 6.9 against Brunei's under 23s, doesn't play in the next game, which is interesting, and then does a 7.7 but is injured. What a game. He does a 7.7, gets injured, and somebody gets a red card, and there's 2 other yellows, but they still get a victory 2-0 over China, and then he's not involved against the Bolivian under 23s. Matt Ryan is still considered a key player for Australia, and he's 35. So are you saying there's a chance for Chase to come in? It does look like Chase is the backup at the senior team level. There's also Joe Gauchi, who doesn't look nearly as good from a technical standpoint. Anthony Pavlesic, maybe, is the under 23 starting goalkeeper currently. Technically is closer to Chase, but not as strong. So are we about to see Chase take the reins of the Australian national team? And will the national team want that? Or will they say, Chase, we want you to be our starter, but we need you to get real playing time and not just for the second team or the B team for PSG. I'm curious if he gets loaned out because he is the starter, but he is concerned. It's on a breakthrough prospect contract, but he's concerned. And that's probably because, hey, I'm getting paid, but I can't play at this level. It's not good for my career. I think that's about all I can show you on Chase right now. So I think we'll wrap it up there. As always, my friends, I've got them listed in transfer value or estimated transfer value. CDB skyrocketing to the top here. Greg at the bottom. But Greg is about, I think, to get a move. So we'll have to see what that does to his value. If you are enjoying this experiment series, a like and a comment and a share and a subscribe and all the things you do on YouTube really, really do help the channel. As I mentioned, we're rebuilding this thing since April. I'm trying to make a go of making this as an income stream for me and my family. And so anything you could do along those lines is super helpful. I want to ask you one last question. I think I asked this maybe 2 episodes ago. Now that you see where these players are, AC Milan, PSG, second team, Mainz on an important player contract, Juve, second team, and so on and so forth. Do you think we potentially have more than one Wonderkid? Or are they going to age out of the Wonderkid, tag? Actually, I'm not the expert in how long that tag lasts in Football Manager. But do we still think CDB is going to have the best career? Or do some of these other guys have a chance to essentially usurp him, even though they didn't get the Wonderkid tag? Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.